Yin has been established for more than 70 years, and Menggelembu groundnuts was actually grown in Menggelembu. And why is it called Menggelembu groundnuts? These days, this is different from previously because Menggelembu groundnuts, any groundnuts which is grown in Malaysia or manufactured in Malaysia, is gazetted by SIRIM. It's called Menggelembu groundnuts. So initially, when the Chinese settlers came to Perak, they actually grew groundnuts in Menggelembu. But over a period of time, you could look into the history of the growers. 95% of the people actually go back to China. So Menggelembu groundnuts is not just being famous in Malaysia, but this is also very famous in China, especially in the southern part of China, in Guangzhou and also in Hong Kong. Because as you can see, history tells us that the 95% of the migrants who go back to their own country to spread the good news of how groundnuts is actually grown in Malaysia, and Menggelembu groundnuts in the state of Perak became very, very popular. Okay. As for our business, we have been in this groundnuts for the last 70 years. And during the old days, I remember being a young man who would actually help out in the selling groundnuts. And the groundnuts are actually packed in small pack, which is actually wrapped up in newspaper. And groundnuts is actually put into some kind of a folder, and then from there, it's been sold for 5 or 10 cents in the shops. So this has been going on for many, many years, and the process is typically Menggelembu, which means it is our own Malaysian type of process, and this is actually very different from overseas. I think it's important. The Chinese population in Malaysia has gone down from the heydays in the 50s of almost 40% of the population to the present, which is about 26%. It is important for us that eating groundnuts is actually a Chinese culture and it's very traditional. I think it's important for Chinese to understand our culture, and that is eating groundnuts is actually a very important tradition for Chinese to emulate or to try to understand that Mooncake Festival and Chinese New Year, whereby it's compulsory that Chinese is actually offered to friends and they are used as gifts. It's important for we Chinese to maintain this tradition, and groundnuts will actually play an important role in the development of the Chinese culture and tradition in future. Okay. Future. I think in future we are hopefully trying to develop new species of groundnuts. Eating groundnuts has got individual tastes. Just like the Asian way of eating groundnuts, which is within Southeast Asia, like Singapore and Malaysia, will be different from how people eat groundnuts in China, or how Europeans or other Western countries will consume groundnuts. for European countries or Western countries, the way they eat groundnuts will be totally different because it is not natural for them to open the shell and take groundnuts out and put it into their mouth. Whereas in Malaysia, we like the menggelembung style of eating groundnuts, which we peel the shell and then we pop the nuts into our mouth. So our groundnuts is actually different from other groundnuts like in China. The reason being is because we harvest our groundnuts in 93 to 95 days. Whereas in China and other Western countries, they harvest their groundnuts in 120 days to 130 days because they want a bigger spread. And most of the groundnuts which they harvest, they use it for groundnut oil and other consumables. Ours, why is it that menggelembung groundnuts is so good and is so tasty? It's like we harvest our groundnuts when they are very young. It's just like if you want to eat something, you always eat the most tender part. And the reason also why there's no cholesterol is because if you harvest the groundnuts if they are young, you can actually look into the groundnuts and check that the husk inside the groundnuts is actually whitish in color. So which means that it is a totally different type. So we need to come up with something which is more traditional and local for the taste, which means we need to cultivate a species which we are working with Utah, and we have set up a program with Utah as to how best that we can structure, that we can collaborate, R&D on working out on a special species whereby this species will be good for the Malaysian people. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the one moment is your moment.